What's up, everybody? Derek Anderson, the DA. All right, everybody, check it out. So we are now in the aftermath of the Acolyte, and looking back on the show, a lot of people are going to try to dissect as to why it didn't work, what was wrong with it, why did it feel kind of weird and off-putting. And I always say that most stories, probably 99% of stories, fail at the very beginning. They fail from the genesis of the project, from the very premise as to why it is we're making the show in the first place, what the show is going to be about. It fails from that point. Leslye Headland proves that right here. You can see on this headline, bounding in the comic, she says it was tonally inspired by Cowboy Bebop. Instead of being tonally inspired by George Lucas or anything that's in Star Wars, or maybe some of the things that George Lucas was inspired by that created Star Wars in the first place. That's where you should have gotten your inspiration from. I'm not saying that you can't pluck little things here and there from other parts of, media and entertainment. And look, don't get it twisted, man. I love me some Cowboy Bebop. I really do. But is Cowboy Bebop the right tone for Star Wars? Is that really what we should be shooting for? Oh, we want to have a Cowboy Bebop tone when it comes to this new Star Wars series. Why aren't you being influenced by George Lucas and what George Lucas found inspiration from? This should be inspired by Star Wars and all the things that George Lucas watched to bring Star Wars into existence in the first place. Why Star Wars became the big hit that it was. They should be going back to that, because right now Star Wars is floundering. It's all over the place with all of these various creators trying to come in and throw their little stamp of approval on it and say, this is what we do. This is who we are. And it's clear that Leslye Headland, for everything that she is, she's not a Star Wars fan. She's a fan of all kinds of other things, but she's really not a fan of Star Wars because she's constantly trying to deconstruct Star Wars instead of adding to the lore of Star Wars and building Star Wars up. They want to tear Star Wars down is basically the problem. And you can see a lot of that right here, okay? This headline kind of took me out, and I was like, okay, this explains a whole lot, all right? A whole lot as to what's wrong with this series. Shout out to John F. Trent on thatparkplace.com. Showrunner Leslye Headland claims that Osha killed Soul in The Acolyte because he was imposing benign sexism on her. And really what she's talking about when she says benign sexism, we're going to read it, she's talking about fatherhood. That's what Leslye Headland has a problem with. We know that she has some problems in her family with her sister, and she's been working these problems out in this show. But apparently she also has a problem with fatherhood. Yeah, let's just jump right to it. So this was this interview she had with Maggie Lovett. She says, what's so interesting about the moment that Osha kills Soul is how much is conveyed while he's even choking on his words. Also, maybe this was my impression of it, but my first thought was he doesn't even give her the agency to make this choice herself because he's accepting his fate. I've been thinking about that for a moment. Because he just says, yeah, kill me, Osha. He's like just letting it go. All right. It's okay, Osha. It's okay to kill me. Like if Soul really cared about Osha, that's the last thing he would allow to happen, because that's a path to the dark side and he knows it. All right. Even in his deluded brain, his mixed up Jedi brain, he knows that that's a direct path to the dark side. And basically what we're hearing is that Soul just said, all right, Osha, go to the dark side. Go on, go to the dark side. It's okay. I'll be your pathway to the dark side. Just kill me. It makes no sense whatsoever. Again, this is showing you that these fools don't understand Star Wars. They don't understand the Jedi. They are totally just oblivious to everything that makes Star Wars. And that's the reason why this show doesn't work. It just adds so much more insult to injury. You can't even let her get a satisfactory kill because you're like, it's okay. It's so good. No, it's not good. Again. You can't let her get a satisfactory kill, and you shouldn't let her kill you at all. You should have tried to fight back. No, I can't let you go down this path to the dark side. I care about you. I love you, apparently, all right? Because that's what he was supposedly trying to get out, all right? The words, I love you. So Headland responded, we also knew that it was going to be the betrayal of the father, and I knew we had to juxtapose Luke's forgiveness and Vader's redemption. We're like, this is a story about the Sith, so that's not going to happen. But see, what they decided to do was say, okay, Soul allows Osha to kill him, and then that speeds up her road to the dark side. Doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense whatsoever. But again, this is where Leslye Headland's coming from, and this is why this show sucked. She then affirmed Lovett's comments. You're absolutely right. There's this thing that's called benign sexism, and part of it is this paternal protectionism. It seems like this good thing, but like you said, there's this, I have to protect you from everything. I have to make sure you're okay. I have to tell you what track to get on, and once you're on that track, I need to support you. She has a problem with that? What's wrong with a father saying, hey, I got to protect you from everything. I have to make sure you're okay. tell you what track to get on. Once you're on that track, I need to support you. What's wrong with a father trying to guide his child? That's absolutely, utterly ridiculous. Ultimately, what happens is, again, this is a father-daughter relationship. As women evolve in their lives and develop their own personality separate from their fathers, at some point, they have to reject that protectionism she asserted. No, they don't. That's what you wanted to do, Leslye Headland. Leslye Headland wanted to reject her father's protectionism. You can always say, hey, thank you for protecting me, father. I appreciate that. I in no way reject that. I have a path of my own that I'm following, but I'm glad that you're always there to sit in my corner and to root for my success, whatever that success may happen to look like. That's the way 99% of fathers look at their daughters. There are some, of course, off-ball weirdos that don't want their daughters to succeed or whatever, but most fathers want their daughters to have a successful, happy life. I mean, I can speak for myself. I have 4 kids. I have 3 sons, a daughter. I want all of them to have successful, happy lives. I have nothing in my heart but love for them. But whatever pathway they decide to choose and go down, that's their business. And so, yeah, I don't understand this protectionism. We have to reject protectionism. That's what they're saying is love. That's the way a father will show love to their children, is to try to protect them. That's a father's obligation, really, is to protect and provide for his family. And so, yeah, you're going to have some protectionism going on, but that's nothing but the love of a father. And again, I don't know what went on in Leslye Headland's life. I mean, apparently some bad things maybe went down, and maybe it's a sad story. I don't know. But it has no business in Star Wars. Star Wars, she even says it, man. The genesis of the Star Wars story, the main storyline that we all got behind and followed, was not necessarily the rebels versus the Empire, all right? It was Luke and his father. It was that story from the very beginning, from the very first movie. When he's talking to Obi-Wan Kenobi about his dad. Oh, man, I wish I knew my dad. I wish I knew my dad. And all the adventures he had as a Jedi Knight and everything like this. This father-son relationship was at the absolute heart of the story, of the overall franchise. And so to see her try to flip that on its head and say, oh, well, you know, this benign sexism. She calls it sexism. It's just utterly ridiculous, man. And again, it just shows the hatred that she has for, you know, fathers and paternal figures. It's just ridiculous, man. Headland continued again. I'm so proud of it. I have so many favorite moments in the show. I have like 100, and I'm happy to go through all of them right now. One of my favorite moments is when he says, I did everything because I love. He's going to say, I love you. And not only is that a level of attachment that an unbalanced Jedi would have, he very clearly is losing it in the second half of the season. But that's also the justification for that kind of behavior between the father and the daughter. I mean, she set this thing up to rip down fathers. That's really what she did, because there's no reason that this dude is this unbalanced in the first place. Why does he have this unhealthy, weirdo attachment to Osha from the get-go? He only knew her for like, what, 2 days, maybe 3, 4 days? Before all of a sudden he's willing to throw away everything for her. It makes absolutely no sense. There's no story reason that this makes sense. Just because he wants a Padawan? Why does he want a Padawan that bad? What is there going down in his life that makes him want a Padawan? See, it's this shortcut microwave writing that we're getting from folks over there at Star Wars. They don't want to go through the entire process of building out a character. They just give you a character and give him a strange flaw that makes no sense. You know, soul being unhealthily attached to this child makes zero sense whatsoever. This is going to be the crux of all of this nonsense that Leslye Headland is putting together. This is why this doesn't work. And what does she do? She does this so that she can have some sort of a justification for the kind of behavior between the father and the daughter. She does this so she can rip him apart. And she can show, oh, see how unbalanced he is? Okay. You know, he's clearly losing it in the second half of the season, but why? Again, none of this is explained. This is just terrible writing from a terrible writer. She doesn't get it. She's putting all of her emotions on display right here. It's really incredible when you really break it down. She's telling on herself. She's telling on herself. She's explaining exactly why this show sucks. And she's explaining why she can't write. None of this stuff to a Star Wars fans makes any sense whatsoever. Why in the world would this Jedi have this out of the blue attachment to Osha? Explain that to me. Even if you love the show, explain. Why does he have this attachment? We are never told that in the show. There is nothing in the writing that explains it. But then she's going to try to use it to justify her propaganda and her ideology regarding fathers and paternal protectionism that she calls benign sexism. Yeah, it's bullshit is what it is. The daughter has to surpass him in some way, she explained. She cannot stay a little girl or an adolescent or young adult. She has to at some point say, I reject what you have told me I need to do to make you proud, to follow in your footsteps. She has to do that. Headland concluded, I do think when he says it's okay, I think you're right. He's imposing on her agency at that point, but I do think in a weird way she needed it. She needed his acceptance, not his approval, but his acceptance of his fate, I think is what gives her that energy to do the final fist clench. Yeah, I mean, again, she becomes a Sith basically because he allows it. This is essentially what she's saying. That a Jedi allowed his daughter, his quote unquote daughter, all right, or the child that he was raising to become a Sith. This is what Leslye Headland wants you to believe, ladies and gentlemen, that this is how unhinged this particular Jedi is. It makes no sense how Soul became a Jedi Master. A Jedi Master would have never allowed this nonsense to happen. He never would have gotten past the trials. He never would have made it to Jedi. It's incredible, man. But yeah, again, all of this is done so that she can destroy and trash fatherhood. Paternal, what did she call it again? I'm sorry, benign sexism, okay? This thing called benign sexism, which is, again, her word for fatherhood, for paternal protectionism, okay? A father protecting his kids, protecting his daughter. Yeah, dads do that kind of stuff. Yeah, that's what fathers are. That's how civilizations are born and created and survive, is because you have paternal protectionism. But she wants to dunk on it and trash it, because maybe she didn't have a good relationship in her family or whatever. I don't know. But again, it's this kind of propaganda and ideology. And again, what she's basically saying is this benign protectionism, or this benign sexism, in her words, has led to the creation of a Sith Lord, right? That's basically what she's trying to say. Your poor fatherhood and all this other crap, Soul's poor parenthood, paternal protectionism of Osha has led to her becoming a Sith Lord. Ha ha. So maybe you shouldn't be protecting your kids. I don't know what the hell it is she's getting at, but again, this explains that she doesn't understand Star Wars. Star Wars fans are not coming to Star Wars looking for this crap. We are not here for this. You could put this in some other franchise and maybe it works over there. It doesn't work here. This is where we come for good versus evil, clearly outlined, so that everybody knows what it is. And if this ain't for you, if this ain't the Star Wars storytelling for you, good versus evil, then bounce. But this is what made Star Wars great. This type of storytelling. The mythology that Star Wars created, that George Lucas created with Star Wars, is why Star Wars became great. And because Lucasfilm doesn't understand that, and they just see it as a collection of stories, and now they want to, subvert everybody's expectation on all of these stories. Because that's what they're doing. This is the reason why Star Wars is failing time and time and time again. Paternal protectionism, benign sexism, utterly ridiculous. It explains so much, folks. But you guys let me know what y'all think about this situation. Again, she's telling on herself. She's expressing why this entire show failed, why people checked out, why everybody's saying it's stupid. The things that she alludes to here, that basically Soul, this compromised, conflicted, emotional Jedi that we are never explained, created a Sith Lord by trying to love us, by trying to be a father, by trying to love her. I just find it unbelievable. But y'all let me know what y'all think. Jump down in the comments. Give me your thoughts and opinions on that. Thanks for watching. See you next time.